Well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous, and welcome to the 2024 edition of Excellence by Vendôme and our special luxury panel discussions presented by Glion Institute of Higher Education. My name is Martin Green, and I am your host and moderator for the day. And for my day job, I'm editor of The Insider, which is the business and lifestyle magazine of Glion. Now, I've interviewed several of the panelists we'll see throughout the day for the magazine, and I had the pleasure of hosting some of them at this event last year. And I've also got to know others of them in the run-up to this event, and I can assure you that you are in for a fascinating day of insights on luxury. Now, we have 4 panel discussions for you today, each one around an hour and a quarter in length, and there will be time for questions from the audience throughout each panel, or at the end of each panel. So please be ready with your questions when you get the call. So, okay, let's get started with our first panel. And that topic gets to the very heart of human existence, because it's about fairness and equality of opportunity, as well as celebrating success in the area of business leadership. We called it Yes, She Can. And I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by 3 very highly accomplished women who personify that phrase perfectly. And I'll just introduce them left to right. Maud Bailly joined us remotely last year, and I'm delighted to say that she's here in person this year. Now, Maud's had an exceptional career to date. She's worked at the heart of the French government. She's run a railway station here in Paris. And for the past 7 years, she's been with the Accor Group, where today she is CEO of Sofitel, MGallery and Emblems, and also sits as a member of Accor's Luxury and Lifestyle Executive Committee. Now, Marie Sermadiras is the CEO of Cosfibel, which is a French company that's a leader in pack and gift creations, which counts for Clicquot, LVMH, and Chanel among its client base. Marie has enjoyed entrepreneurial success herself with her beauty service booking platform Treatwell. She's also starred in the corporate world, being appointed Global Chief Digital Officer at L'Oréal Active Cosmetics, which is the fastest growing division of L'Oréal during her time there. And now Marie has embarked on her new adventure with Cosfibel in 2021. Anne-Charlotte Bellanger is the CEO of Delcourt Collection, founded by the French furniture designer and craftsman Christophe Delcourt. Anne-Charlotte has a strong background in luxury, having been managing director of France, United Kingdom, and Iberia for the watchmaker Piaget. She's also held senior marketing roles for Ralph Lauren and the UK-based jeweler Theo Fennell. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my special guests, Maud Bailly, Marie Sermadiras, and Anne-Charlotte Bellanger. Well, thank you very much all for coming, and welcome to the Hotel de Marais. Now, all 3 of you have those magic letters CEO by your name. So it's fair to say you've all arrived when it comes to leadership within your chosen industries. So I want to start by allowing each of you, perhaps in turn, to think back over your careers to date. Tell us about the sort of formative moment or moments which you felt put you on the path to success. And Anne-Charlotte, if I can come to you first with that one.
Good morning, everyone. Does that work? Yeah. So I thought a lot about that question, and I think it's more a journey than a real formative moment. But also what I feel strongly is that it all came when I was a kid. So my father only had daughters, and he raised us as if anything was possible. That if you put your mind and your work into it, you can achieve everything. Now, I'm pretty sure he may have wanted boys, but the fact is he had girls. So he trained us to ride motorcycles, he trained us to do anything. And also I think at home, there was not already at that time a difference between what mom was doing versus dad was doing. So I think we're in a very progressive family, and with a strong motto, which is who can do more, can do less. And I think it's super important. So when you have a different moment of time, when you don't know what you want to do, and I think specifically when you are French at school, it's not really you are not well supported to know what will be your career, to be honest. I think when you have your baccalaureate already, you're like, what's going to happen? I think it's always making decisions that open doors. And I think that was the case in all my career and in all the changes which I had the chance to do in New York, in London, in France, and globally. And I think, the key formative moments was for me, every time I was seeing an opportunity, I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Okay, good. Maud, I once described you as having a non-linear career, and we spoke about that when I interviewed. What's your take on that, on about those formative moments that you experienced?
First of all, good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here in person.
Absolutely.
I guess my personal formative moments were the ones where I dared to be what I dreamt to be. So becoming a station manager, so I was the head of Gare Montparnasse for 3 years. By the way, it was amazing. Was not that obvious considering my career path. And some people laughed at me at that time. First of all, because they were not sure I would be a good station manager. And second, because it was non-linear. But you know what? At the end of the day, the formative moments of your career, which is never linear, because life is not linear. Life is not linear, and this is the magic of life and the beauty of it. The beautiful formative moments are the ones where you dare to be aligned with yourself, realigned with what you truly love, and stop trying to pretend to be something just to please someone else. So it was really formative moments about being aligned. Should it be becoming station manager, working for the French government, or joining the hospitality? So what I would share with you is more something personal about formative moments are the ones where you really listen to your butterflies and dare to just become who you want to be, no matter what people think of you and whether you're going to be a good station manager or not.
And you were obviously a very good station manager. Marie, what's your take on that, if you want to think back sort of to formative moments of your own?
Well, I perfectly agree with what Anne-Charlotte and Maud just said. And if I had to add something, I would say it's the power of meeting the right people in the right moment. So it's a journey, but there's some epitome moments. And I think that's the moments when you meet the right person. When I created my first company, I was 22. I had no clue I could create my company when I was 22. What happened is I met the girl I wanted to do this with. Then I had no idea I could, after an entrepreneurial life, go to L'Oréal. But I met some great people there, and I thought, oh, why not to work with those people? I could. And the last, which I think is maybe the most representative, is when I joined Cosfibel. I moved from digital and tech to packaging, which was not the most natural move. And everybody thought I was going on a burnout at the time. But it was not the case. What happened is I took a plane from Paris to New York for L'Oréal. And the person sitting next to me was the founder of this company. He saw I was speaking with the executive committee of L'Oréal, and he thought, what is this 28 years old girl talking with those guys? And when we were going through custom, he just seized me and said, I need you to tell me who you are. And we just exchanged cards, got along well, had a few lunches, and 3 years later, he proposed me to take over him as the CEO of Cosfibel. Who could imagine meeting his future boss and shareholder in a plane and just discussing with him? So I really believe in the power of meeting the right people and always being open to just creating connections. 95% of the time, this will create nothing except good moments, but sometimes it can create the magic that makes your career.
Yeah, sure. And now, Marie, if I can stay with you, actually, because you just touched on that, that you've actually got the full set. Startup, SME at the present stage, and obviously big global corporate. So that's in terms of a leadership training, in terms of leadership experience, that's a good set. Tell me a little bit about how those different, or what those different experiences brought you as the leader you are today.
I think starting by a startup is a great experience because the best way to learn is to do things by yourself. When you start a startup when you're 22 with no funding, well, you have to do everything yourself. So you're the sales rep, you're the marketer, you're the chief operations officer, you do absolutely everything. So that's the best possible training to start a career. And no one should be scared about this. You have to do a bit of everything to just discover what you want to do and where you can be good. Then having the startup and having sold it to a listed company, I started doing the scale up, which was another experience. So it was really gradual. And I think it gave me the opportunity to learn little by little rather than wanting everything from the beginning. You have to learn step by step. You have no other choice. Then the big corporate is another world, and what I learned mainly in a big corporation is to understand how they work. And then being an entrepreneur, you need to understand how your client works and what they need, and this helped me a lot at Cosfibel. I would tend to say that the most difficult I found was to lead an SME, because SME in the industry is not what attracts talents today. So you need to attract the right talents, convince them that industry in a small size company is going to be an exciting journey when everybody wants to go to the top luxury big corporation or to the new startups, unicorns and all these things. So you're a bit in the middle, and that's a difficult situation, I think, to lead to attract and lead great people.
Yeah. You're nodding away there, Anne-Charlotte. Is that something, that SME experience, something that resonates with you as well?
Actually, yes, because my last move is in, I'm more a TPE than a SME. And I have a new challenge indeed to attract people. But also, even myself, I was surprised in a very good way that you can achieve great things. Me, I come from the corporate world. Most of my days were the corporate worlds. Alors, even though I think I was always an entrepreneur. So it's something that I did myself in the way I always approach even in big corporation. But why are we doing it like that? Which I think I annoyed a few people sometimes. But always wanting, so how can I do things differently? And so when I arrived at Delcourt, which is a new role, so we need to shape the organization. We need to bring the people along yourself to have a vision. So I think it's quite also you feel the challenge, and I'm sure even yourself with bigger teams that as a CEO, you are the one having the vision, but also you are the one trying to go to the next level and finding the right people. And I love those interviews where indeed I'm not using a headhunter, and I find new people that are also passionate about what we do. And I think there will be a link later on luxury, but the craftsmanship and all those elements are things that we can talk to. And I think also the new generation is also looking into more sense. And it's a good way for us, smaller business, to attract new people, because as they are looking for more senses, I think what we do concretely day to day is also what brings them to the table. And I think we will have more and more people going from corporation to small businesses, and I think it's important to have also that flexibility while you grow yourself.
Sure. Now, Maud, Anne-Charlotte just mentioned shaping, and I know that was something that when we had a conversation before this event that you talked about the challenge of shaping a business, and in your case, when you joined us last year, you'd just been announced in your new role as the CEO of Sofitel, MGallery, and Emblems. So you've had a year now. Tell us a little bit about the journey of shaping that newly created division, that newly created business, those existing brands, and how you've gone about doing that.
So the funny part of this new role is that we started literally from scratch. Usually you are appointed as a CEO, you inherit something, a team, a structure. In that case, 14 months ago, we were like 0. Enfin, me, 1. And then we were 2. And I think the second of the third one was a wonderful lady who is in the room today, and it's Audrey, and it's my communication director. And thank you so much, Audrey. So after that, we ended up being 23, woo, and then 45, and now we are 124. The thing I want to share with you is that usually when you are a CEO, you inherit a team and then you have to reshape it, to adapt it, to see whether you think the magic is here or not. But in that case, the journey was really interesting, a bit tiring, a bit exhausting, I must say, but super interesting because I had to build my maison from scratch. And, you know, it's to me really consistent with the definition of a CEO. Actually, the CEO is literally nothing, okay? It's the head of the maison. But if you have no walls, no bricks, no doors, no furniture, it's not going to really work. So I had to literally appoint one by one wonderful musicians and then make sure I will ensure the most beautiful symphony. So to me, being a CEO is a bit like an orchestra conductor. Many people can do amazing things without you. By the way, they do things better than you. They are top experts. My philosophy is clearly hire smarter. It's also for you, Alexandra. But at the end of the day, you are the glue. You are the pivot. You are, I hope, the backbone, allowing the maison to be strong and to grow. So to me, it was quite a journey because we started from scratch. It's really about the capacity to recruit people, not only individual talents, but make sure that the collective intelligence of these people is bigger than the respective individualities, which is super powerful to me. And last but not least, you as a CEO, you are the color of your teams. If you are stressed, your teams get stressed. If you are negative, your teams start getting worried. So there is a kind of duty for the CEO to be positive, embarking people as a duty. And yes, it's been quite a journey because phase 1, we've been traveling everywhere, listening to the GMs, to the teams, to the owners. Phase 2, we started crafting the new ambition for the brands, which needed really a new era. And phase 3, where we are today, we are now spreading the vision, executing. But it's been quite a unique journey. And for the first time, I was a CEO with no team and no structure, which was quite a challenge.
Marie, that's a slightly different situation for you because presumably when you joined Cosfibel in 2021, it was an existing business, a long-standing, very, very quite a historic business, I believe. So that presumably presented slightly different challenges as a CEO, in that you weren't shaping. Perhaps you were maybe looking to reshape. Is that the case?
It's exactly the case. There's a difference between being a CEO of a starting company or a starting business unit where you need to create your own team versus the fact of taking over a team that exists and is working very well without you, which is not the same challenge. But I would say in the two cases, you just need to make your job, and your job is exactly what Maud described, like creating the harmony in the team and being the leader, the one sharing the vision and being the one helping when there's problems, but the team is doing it by itself. So it's another challenge, but it's also a great opportunity to have an existing team and just trying to get them in the same direction, which is maybe a new direction, because when you enter as a new CEO, it's a new chapter for the company. So you share a new vision, you need to convince them that that's the new way of doing things because the company needs that in this particular moment, and trying to convince them that this the right time. But when you hire a team, as Maud was explaining, you need also to convince them around a new vision. So it's kind of the same job. It's just a different setup.
Yeah. Now, in all of those experiences, and Charlotte, you were mentioning this as well, obviously these are new experiences, and everyone learns in every role. I've learned in the job that I'm doing, I've learned how to do this for starters. In your time so far with Delcourt, joining quite a different organisation to what you were used to before, what have you learned about yourself? What have been the most interesting things you've learned about yourself during that process?
Alors, first, it's been 6 months, so I'm still learning a lot about myself. First, it's a new role. So I was appointed CEO, but it's not a role that was existing before. So it's a company what was created by the designer, was no training. As I was mentioning to you earlier, he wanted to be an actor. He realized he was not good enough, and he felt, so I need to do something. And he discovered, working with woodmaker, with craftsmen, that he had a talent, but he had a talent more to design than to do it himself. And so this is how the journey started. And then that company grew bigger. I think, and I was mentioning that earlier, the industry is changing, especially for interior design, for furniture. Post-COVID, there is really, people are putting more interest into their home. And we see that industry, which is a part of the luxury industry, much smaller, but getting bigger. And we need to follow that trend. And I think this is the reason why it's brought in. Alors, first thing you learn is the size of a business and the size of the people. I was lucky to have people behind me. I had the team. And first, so I take on a team. There was a real need to reorganize it because it was really done organically. So I was giving an example, great commercial manager based in Ottawa. During my first call, I'm like, so you're overseeing, I guess, the US and Canada. So I'm overseeing Asia and Europe. And you're like, okay, from Canada. Like, time difference, how does that work? So it was just more realizing what was there. The company is amazing, the design are amazing, but you needed to do it with intelligence, I know you're going to talk about diversity after that. I'm working with designers. I'm working with very creative people, and they need me to shape on the more commercial, but at the same time sharing their vision. And that journey is amazing. We still need to have along people to change people, and change people in small organization is also tough. You realize, in fact, those people are definitely not the right people for the business, and it's not something I like to do at all. And I'm like, shit, I'm doing it again. But then it's for the better good, and I think those people, they understood as well, they were not necessarily what is needed for the growing of a business. So what I've learned is to listen more and more to the people, to our founders, our associates, to listen to the market, to understand better in the smaller scale than Maud was doing. Again, going to my retailers, understanding what is Delcourt, what they're expecting from us, and from us starting to put a vision on the table, and ideally to have even a long-term vision with them. And this is what I'm passionate about at the moment.
Yeah. And Marie, what's your take on that? What's the number one thing you'd say you've learned about yourself in these sort of 3 years with Cosfibel?
A lot of things, and how much we can always learn is definitely answer number one. But more specifically, I would say that when you're a CEO, or like you have this nature where you want to control a bit everything. That's part of who we are. But in fact, you don't control so much. And the business is flowing, the macro situation is flowing, and you just need to insert yourself within this. And I think that's maybe what I learned most about Cosfibel is that there were so many surprises I did not foresee when I joined the company. One was that we had a plan to sell the company after 3 or 5 years, so we were preparing for this. But in fact, we got a great offer from an acquirer after 18 months. Should we take it? Should we not take it? It's completely changing the strategy. And in fact, that the job of the CEO is really to just try and adapt to the context rather than just doing what we feel as the right vision. And I think that this humility and adaptation to context was definitely one of the big takeaways of this period.
That's a classic law of unforeseen circumstances, isn't it? As you say, you can never plan for when things like that are going to happen.
Exactly. You work on 3 years plan, but in fact, you don't even know what's going to happen in 6 months. But
and more, just to come back to you, I mean, in terms of what you've learned in this year as the CEO of this division of Accor.
Oula. Humility works, okay? Although you're the CEO, you learn constantly from the field. And I guess we went fast. We managed to achieve and craft a vision for the brand, but I would never have been able to do that without traveling everywhere and just pausing and sitting and listening. So I guess when you are CEO and when you are appointed, you have this natural tendency to try to control and try to deliver immediately. So the answer is no way. It's urgent not to do anything, to recruit great people and to listen.
Yeah.
Because strategy takes time, and we'll talk about that later, but it's also about culture. And you've got only one chance to set up the right culture. After that, you can try to fix it, to catch up. It's a bit too late. So take the time needed to settle the right culture.
Cool. Now, our panels today are luxury panels, and all three of the companies that you lead, or the divisions or companies that you lead, have a very strong luxury dimension in terms of the market positioning they're at. So I want to explore that a little bit more and get you to talk a little bit about how that luxury dimension influences your thinking as leaders of your business. And Anne-Charlotte, I'll come to you first, if I may. How does this luxury dimension work for you? How does it influence you?
First, luxury is super important. It's something I never thought I would work into. My academic background was not leading me to work in luxury. And it's an opportunity as an intern who ended me working at Piaget. So it's funny that 20 years later, I ended up again at Piaget. And I discovered a world of craftsmanship, of know-how, which changed my vision of things and made me, the one thing I was sure is I wanted to work in that environment forever. So across my career, as you say, Piaget, Cartier, Ralph Lauren, I was lucky enough to work with top brands, strong DNA, and always paying attention to detail. And I think luxury is also a way of living, a way of leading. And I think this is exactly also what I've been brought for Delcourt. What we do as a product is luxurious. We are made in France, we have the best craftsmen, we work for the biggest brand and the biggest hotel. But we may not be as an organization as luxury as we want it to be. And luxury becomes in the way the timing you answer questions from the people you work with, becomes to the way you answer the question, the way you present those things. And I think luxury is key, and this is what we try to infuse in the whole company today. And it's something that here we talk a lot also about hospitality. And you know more than I do than in hotels, that luxury element, that thread is super important. And so for me, that's the thread of my career, but also the thread I'm trying to lead into the company today.
Yeah, interesting. And Marie, I mentioned the very much top tier luxury clients that you work with. So tell us about how that dimension influences the work you've done with Cosfibel, or how you led the company.
Well, I've discovered luxury thanks to Cosfibel. Before, I've always been in selective industries, but not luxury. And I must say that the biggest discovery here was that luxury is not just a varnish that you add on selective distribution. It's a full experience, it's a full culture. And it's very difficult to do great luxury. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of details, as you said, and Charlotte. And it's how you really build the price power for the brands you work with. Everybody talks today, in particular in an inflation time, that you should try and kill the cost and all these things, which is true in certain industries. But luxury can't behave this way. So it's really how do you build the experience to create this price power? Because luxury brands are still increasing their prices, and everybody and all the clients are very happy with it. So this is particular. How can you create the culture and the dream that make people, and all the details that make people want to spend more on top ultra luxury? Today is really the mission we have at Cosfibel, and it's full details. It's ton of details, and it's a lot about the culture we have, not just something that we add on top of the rest. We can't do luxury and something else. I think you need to really dedicate yourself to luxury when you do luxury.
Interesting. And Maud, what's your take? In fact, this question kind of came from my discussion with you last week. So give us your take on that.
You know, it's interesting because when you apply luxury to the hospitality environment, the answer is luxury is about emotion. You can have the best, most beautiful hotels with the most beautiful furnitures provided by Anne-Charlotte. And the most beautiful packagings provided by Marie. Yeah, I know. I got it. I have to rush after that. No, I'm kidding. It's not going to be luxury if you don't have the service. Try to remember your last hospitality experience. Was the hotel beautiful? Did you have marble, gold? I hope not. I mean, how was the lobby looking? But at the end of the day, if you don't feel welcome, if you don't receive a personalized attention, if you don't get this feeling of being a bit special, this is not luxury. So when I took over this job now over 14 months ago, I was starting reading everything about luxury, watching masterclasses, HBR articles about luxury, new trends of luxury and everything.
The insider, hopefully.
Yeah,
as well.
yes, of course. And I was like, okay, I got it. It's mostly beautiful, top-notch quality, craftsmanship. Okay, I should say this all the time, and I will be like a luxury CEO. But in my industry, and I guess it's exactly the same for you, it's about the way you feel. So sorry about you gentlemen, but ladies, do you remember how you feel when you wear a perfectly fitted little black dress? You know this little black dress? Like this, she's like very simple, but the minute you wear it, you feel like, wow, this is luxury. So my role as a luxury CEO was to make sure that for Sofitel Legend, Emblems and MGallery, each time my staff will welcome a new guest, will welcome you, each of my guests will feel special. So luxury to me, long story short, is an attitude. It's about culture, what you rightly said. So what did we do? Of course, we crafted the ambition. We have a clear DNA for each brand. We need to be inspirational. We have new visual identity, brand campaigns, and blah, blah. But we worked on training, on culture. So we decided to pause and think of what were our 7 core values, what were our leadership principles, to try to craft a culture. And very often, Martin, people are asking me what would be my greatest success KPI in 3 years. When do you think, Maud, you will have succeeded as a CEO in this luxury environment? And my answer is always the same. EBITDA, GOP, blah, blah, are only a consequence of a successful culture. So I believe I will have succeeded, we will have succeeded, if within 3 years, people will acknowledge that Sofitel Legend, Emblems and MGallery managed to create a culture where you feel special, Martin, where you feel like you are having this little black beautiful dress on you and you feel wonderful.
Hope it's a big one. That's fantastic. And I will come back to talk a little about organizational culture and other such things in a short while. But now I want to turn from sort of leadership topics and things like sort of kind of corporate style and luxury. I want to sort of explore you as human beings and some of those elements of your careers so far. Now, you've all had inspirational journeys. I'm sure everyone that's listened to you so far will kind of realize that already. But as with any career, I'm sure things have not always been plain sailing. And that there have been some significant challenges along the way. And I want you just to think back to some of those challenges, but also, given the topic or the title of our panel and its topic, to tell me whether you think some of those challenges were influenced at all by the fact that you are women, that you are female leaders. Marie, if I can come to you first on that question, can you sort of think back to that and give us your thoughts?
Well, definitely hard moments is definitely part of the journey of any CEO or any business leader anyway, but that's part of the game. And sometimes I try and always see it as a game, saying that if it was easy, everybody would do it, and then you had no value where you are. So taking it as a game and trying to stepping back from it and just seeing it as a challenge, like an enigma, a conundrum you need to solve. This helps to push it away and sleep well at night. Then is it linked to the fact of being a woman? Sure, some of it, yes, definitely. I would say that in my case, I would add on top of it, being a very young woman is not helping either, because when you're 22, you create your company, no one trusts you. Everybody says, but you're 22. Just go back to your pacifier and and stop annoying us with your business discussions. When you start in executive committee of a division in a group such as L'Oréal, when you're 28, same. Everybody pushes you back, saying, "Well, you're 28. You just created a company. You never worked in our industry or in your environment." So I would say that the age was maybe the most difficult thing, rather than being a woman. But would it be being a woman or young? I think that we are in charge of how we feel things, and the biggest challenge we have as women or young people or whatever difference we have is just you think, okay, this is what they think. Important is what I think and what I can do, and I have the freedom of doing what I want. So if I trust myself, if I believe in myself, I will make it happen, and I don't care about what they think. And well, it's easy to say, huh? Sometimes I can tell you that sometimes I've not been thinking this way, and still today. But always trying to push back and saying, well, you are the one deciding of your future. So trust yourself and believe in yourself, and then it will work.
Yeah, interesting. And Charlotte, what's your take on that?
I think, as you mentioned, it's not an easy road, and I think work hard, play hard. Sometimes important. Me, on one side, it was I was lucky enough, and we talk women in luxury in the panel, to all the beginning of my career, I've been working for amazing women. Sometimes it's a chance, and I'm going to name them because they are amazing people. I work with Iris Langlois-Meurine, with the CMO of Ralph Lauren today. I worked with Shabi Nouri, previous CEO at Cartier, and after that, first CEO at Richemont Women for Piaget. I've worked at the Galerie Lafayette with Daphne Jeanlis, who was the first CEO, woman, 38 years old. So all that was very inspiring and really paved the way. For me, there was no reason to be a woman and not to succeed. I've had the chance to work in American companies, and I think diversity is not even a question anymore. And women, men, it is not a question. Coming back to France, for me, was quite a change. I joined a luxury group. We may not be that advanced, and I really felt sometimes that I was a woman in the number of people in a room. in the fact that that group has no senior woman outside of an HR, was no power. And thus, I think some part of the industry hasn't changed completely. Fortunately, other big groups, as we can see, have put beautiful women as CEOs, and they believe in it. But I would say that at sometimes, yes, you risk it, and you have the very, sometimes it happened, and for me, I was like 20 years ago, during a meeting, and there is a shush. So you are one of the only women, or you are two, and when we talk, they don't listen and they shush you. And that was the time I felt that was the time for me to change, because that, unfortunately, I couldn't make that change. So then you have the power to change yourself and to go something else. Yeah. But yeah, there's still sometimes nowadays with nimble CEO, we need sometimes still to fight our way. But lucky enough, there are other great companies that are still getting it.
Yeah. And Maud, do those thoughts resonate with you from your experience?
Absolutely. Listen, becoming a CEO is never a walk in the park. Should it be a man or a woman? And it's okay. Let's not kill ourselves with toxic, illusions about the fact that the world is split into two parts: the successful CEOs who succeed in everything, and then us. So no, we are all struggling and all trying to just do our best. And being a CEO is also a journey of sometimes failures, doubts, crisis, and sometimes kind of loneliness, because again, you can't do anything without your wonderful team, but at the end of the day, you are the CEO, and you are in charge, and you have a special pressure on your shoulders, and you also need to protect your people. So yes, it's a wonderful, the greatest, a bit lonely journey, but again, it's magical. You learn, and you're blessed because you have fantastic teams without which you can't do anything. What Marie and Charles just said, of course, obviously resonated. The hospitality industry was a pretty immense world. So I joined Accor 7 years ago, and women at Excom were mostly communication and HR. And we really needed my boss, Sébastien Bazin, CEO and chairman of Accor, to really make big changes. And it was not that easy. And we started pushing for more women GMs, general managers, running hotels. And then I asked for pushing for GMs, women running luxury brands of hotels, because it was okay for eco mid-scale brand, but big business, money, come on, be serious. So I was like, ah. And again, Sébastien has always been super supportive. So this ambition needs to start from the top of the group. And again, just to be clear, it's not about just being surrounded by women. We need men and women. And by the way, men, you are often our best ambassadors. And women can be horrible to other women. Not all of them, of course. So we want diversity. And then we started seeing some changes. I guess sometimes I had personally the feeling I had to prove more than others. And when I got appointed, I felt maybe I was wrong, some looks, some surprises, which I may not have faced if I had a moustache. I also got pregnant during my Accor journey, waiting for my second daughter. And I remember some surprised looks at my huge belly. I was not as beautiful as Marie. I was like a whale, but a very smiling whale. But I had also the smile of my teams. I had also the smile of some people saying, ah. I was like, oh, merci. And I had the full support of my boss. So, at the end of the day, it's not going to be easy. It's never going to be easy. But surely and smoothly, things can change. And this is a key message I want us to have in mind. Things can change. Mm.
And if I may add, I think it's at every level of the organization. You mentioned Sébastien being your best advocate, which I think is super important, is having a great advocate. It can be a shareholder, it can be a boss. It will be your peers that will support or hinder you. But it's also the teams and what they expect from you. And I think that teams are still used to be led by men, and all the let's say the ways of leading of men that are quite different often than women. and they are really waiting from you. They're expecting from you that you behave like a man when you're a woman, which is not the case, because we can be different. We don't have the same management style, and I know that it's always been a big topic for me to try and explain to my teams that no, I will not be leading like my predecessor who used to be a man, meaning going on stage, taking my microphone and being very clever and very charismatic, but I will do things differently, and I'm not a superhero, and they should not expect from me being a superhero. So I think that everybody is in charge of making that this diversity is being infused everywhere. What your teams expect from you have a real influence on this. And everybody as a team, when you have a woman leading you, don't forget she's a woman. Don't expect from her to behave as a man, because that's not why she is here. And that's really something, I think, where everybody influences, from the top leaders to your peers and to your teams, about what they should expect from a woman leader versus a man.
Is that the same for you, Anne-Charlotte? Do you feel you lead differently as a woman to other men that you've experienced perhaps being led by?
I think we lead differently, and I think that's the reason why sometimes we are brought on. I think empathy is not a weakness, and I think we help shape organization better, because there is some analytics and studies which have been done when a man manages, he always tries to see what's in for him. When a woman manages, she sees what's in for the group. And I think this is really where I agree with both Maud and Marie. I think we put a bit of ourselves also as CEOs, and we try to bring the collective together. And I strongly believe in that. And there are lots of studies that shows that women really manage differently. And I don't know if we're going to talk about the famous glass cliff, and
that was going to be coming up.
but that's very we are still supposed to be a minority, so I love that women are a minority when we represent more than half of the population, if you count it well, but still in the way we are expected and in the way we are appointed, we are a minority, and I think that's wrong, because as I would say, people expect more from us becoming a CEO, and honestly, I don't see why. And then I think we bring different things to the plate. Mary's really going after somebody who founded it, with a man who brought some values. She's going to bring different values to that. And me, I'm working alongside the founders, where I bring completely different things. And I think, today, and specifically in luxury, that balance is important, that diversity. But it goes for men and women. It goes for all the diversity that you think. It goes by nationalities, having the chance to work in American company where you have everybody on the table. I found that when you brainstorm, having various people from various backgrounds, the result is always much better than being yourself alone in your office. And a CEO is also sometimes, of course, the strategic vision. You need to be sometimes alone in your office to think through. But most of the time it's to work with the others and shape the best. Again, we're coming back to the shaping, but shaping and diversity is important.
Absolutely. Well, and let's stay with you then. And Charlotte, since you mentioned it, I'll give you first dibs on that. I mean, there are a lot of buzzwords around leadership and around women in leadership, but glass ceiling and glass cliff are two very common ones. We do see them mentioned. I think people are fairly familiar with glass ceiling, obviously being a sort of a point at which women are seen as not being able to get above. Glass cliff, I think perhaps people in the audience might be less familiar with, but you mentioned it. So tell us how that works in practice.
What is called glass cliff is the fact that at a certain period of time, when a business is in trouble, there is a tendency to save business minority/woman. And thus, it means that you are bringing people with pressure because the business is not going well. And usually, as you were mentioning, I don't remember, you are not a magician. If a business is in trouble, either being a man or a woman is not going to change it. It needs time. And most of the time, and I think there's a very interesting TED talk about that, is really, if you give wrong cards to someone, no matter the nationality, the religion, the sex, you will end up failing. And so that's very important in the journey also to understand the cards you are given. And I think, yes, it's a good opportunity to become a CEO at a time where it's difficult, but it shouldn't be too difficult either. And then you shouldn't blame yourself. And I think failure is part of a journey. Failure is part of knowing, and I think we've all had failures in our career. If I take the example of in living in London and in the UK, as you have no social security system and all that, you lose a job, you find another one. So it's not a problem. You are not being looked badly because you are changing job for those reasons. If you come back to France, losing a job is the end of the world. And I can tell you, it's not the end of the world. It's a great opportunity. When a door closes, there is really another one opening. And I think this is important. And that notion of glass cliff is, okay, maybe you're challenged, maybe it's not going to work, but first take that opportunity. First, face those people if they say, yeah, but you're not succeeding because you're a man. No, I'm not succeeding because the KPIs were crap in the first place, and I'm not a magician. And if it's not working, go to the next place, because the next place is really most of the time best, because you have learned from the past, you have grown, and you have become a better manager, you have a better vision, and you're going to bring more to the table.
Marie, I'll come to you in a second, but more those two phrases, and I'm actually ashamed to say that glass cliff was something you introduced me to when I interviewed you back in 2021.
We have to educate everyone.
I know, to my shame. So I know that you've got a take on this. Give us your thoughts on that, how those terms, what they really mean.
Those are pretty two different concepts, as Charlotte White said. Glass ceiling is really the traditional barrier, and you can't really cross it. You believe, it's a belief. You can't cross it as a woman. Which is directly connected to me to another thing. We women rarely dare to ask. And I've been leading women and men. And men, you are better than us, for real, at asking. And if you don't ask, why should you get it? So ask. We have this belief of, delivering, be good at school, getting your own work done, and then someone's going to give you something. But no, huh? Then you wake up. Huh? This is not like butterflies and, little pony world. Huh? This is reality. So glass ceiling will obviously always be here. We need to collectively be cautious. And if you observe any kind of glass ceiling, for men or women, but frequently for women, just react. Because if you have the power to react, just react and give a heads up. Plus, you women, please dare to ask. 100% of the winners played. So you have to play, you have to ask. Glass cliff is another story. Like, I'm so lucky to be given a role, so no matter how shitty or tricky it is, I'm going to take it. And you don't even have to pay me for that. No, this is not the way it goes. So again, I'm just highlighting the fact that we are not victims. We are also in charge on the way we frame from day one our scope. And we are also actors of the rules. So if you don't take time to define the rules, you can't really complain after that about that, okay? So glass ceiling and glass cliffs helped me a lot to shape our HR policy within our maison, like diversity promotion, as you rightly said, not just men and women, but different cultural backgrounds, generations, and also making sure you are nudging people. I love this word in English. I have no translation for that in French, actually, to nudge. So, okay, you are nudging someone because you're sure she's going to be amazing and she should leave her communication director position to create her own company. And I'm sure she's going to be super successful working in her agency. Alexandra.
The challenge is laid down.
So you are nudging. And if you see someone is also, a lady is also self-censoring herself, because it's also about that. You're just saying, oh, by the way, this promotion is not an option. It's for information, FYI. And this is what happened to one of my colleagues in Southern Europe, Christina, when I appointed her, when I promoted her. She was like, oh, I'm not so sure. I was like, no, it's not an option. Huh? Congratulations, you're starting tomorrow. Yeah, but we're there. I was like, stop it. So, yes, we have glass ceiling and glass cliffs. You need to be aware. You need to collectively pay attention to these phenomena to protect each other. And ladies, you also have to take the power. And guys are also taking the power. They don't receive it. take it in a good way.
Excellent. And Marie, from your side, have you seen these phenomena? Have you experienced these phenomena? And have you tried to break these phenomena?
Definitely, and I agree with every word you just say. If there's one thing I want to bounce back is really that you have the power, you control it, as Maud said, and there's no rule, and we have been educated like very nice little girls working well, but there's a moment you decide. And honestly, when I started selling the company, selling Cosfibel, I was working on another project on the side, which was IVF. So I was trying to have a baby at the time, and I started being pregnant exactly at the moment we started the deal. And everybody looked at me saying, "But Marie, that's not the right moment." If there was a right moment. And honestly, I said, no, I'm going to do it. There's no problem. I will just, my body, I will handle it, and everything is going to be fine. And I've been the CEO of a company that needed to grow. I was selling the company, which is a full-time job. And I was starting to have a baby growing in my belly, which is another full-time job, by the way. And finally, everything went well. And we sold the company, and the day after I gave birth, maybe there was a link between both.
The stress.
It was
The
exactly
stress.
possible. And I really think that we decide what we want. And maybe I could have said, yes, you're right, I need to step down, or I need to give up my project, my personal project. But in fact, you can be a mother, you can be pregnant, you can do everything, but then you need to do compromises. And definitely, when you give birth the day after you sell the company, you forget your congé maternity, your maternity leave. There's a moment you need to handle your position, you need to go back to the office, you need to be with your teams, you're not going to say, hey, bye-bye, sorry, I'm not here anymore. But it's doable, it just depends on you, depends on what you want, and I still believe I'm okay to be mom, in the way I'm trying to behave with my daughter, but there's a moment I need to travel, I need to be with my teams, and I'm still doing okay at home. And it's really, we can decide what we want. We just need to know what compromises we're ready to do. And it's only ourselves deciding it. And everything is doable. Everything.
Yeah. Excellent. Ladies and gents, in about sort of 5 or 6 minutes, I'll be opening up questions from the audience. So start thinking about your questions for our 3 panelists while we're just going through the next couple of panel discussions. That's a little bit of fair warning. But Marie, if I can stay with you actually, because throughout this, we'll turn away from yourselves now and go more back to sort of like organizational stuff. Now we've talked about diversity, we've talked about culture, fairly superficially so far, but let's put it all together and just sort of try and pinpoint the importance of diversity of thought, diversity of people, and how that contributes to a successful organizational culture. Do you want to kick us off with that?
Sure. I think Charlotte already started when she mentioned diversity being everything. I'm not a great fan of quotas, even though they help in the beginning to get the change moving in, but honestly, what we want is to have people with different point of view. Sometimes it's because we have a diversity between men and women. Sometimes it's diversity of race. Sometimes it's diversity of social education. It could be anything. But we should make sure that in our team we have people that have different point of views. The worst thing you can have is having clones in your team and everybody thinking like you as a CEO, always agreeing with you and always agreeing together. That's the worst thing that you can have. So I think that diversity is really about making sure that we have the right persons in the right place and making sure that there's people that think differently. And it's not so bad if there's maybe 60% or 70% of men, but in fact what we need to make sure is that we have the right persons at the right place and that we set up the culture and the structure of the company to make sure that this diversity is coming at every stage of the company. And diversity is really about everything. We talked a lot about women versus male, but it's every single part of diversity. And when we are a company being B2C or B2B, we need to be able of talking with all kind of customers, all kind of clients. And for this, we need to have very different people in the team. So let's just make sure that we have it at every level of the organization. Excellent. That's our responsibility as managers and leaders.
Sure. And Charlotte, you obviously experienced sort of big company culture with Piaget, with your international roles there and others as well. I mean, and obviously now you've got an international SME that you're working with now. Tell us about your take on that idea of the benefits of diversity.
But I think Mary says it all almost. But I think, yeah, especially even a smaller company, you really need to pay attention. We are a smaller company based in Paris. We try not to have only French people because we are a global company. We sell in 80 countries. So we need to be able to adapt and to understand the needs of the customers. And as we say, for the luxury, it's also understanding what they are looking for, understanding and always being in advance, because we are not going to redo what we were doing before. So it's always understanding the expectations. And I think for that is also diversity in generation. We need younger people. But also in a small company like mine, we also need older people, because when you have a small company, you tend to have all new people bringing on, but you also need the experience to help you also go to the next level. And I was lucky as well. Piaget is a worldwide company, but Ralph Lauren is a huge worldwide company. And funny enough, I think it was 15 years ago, they had created a diversity council. And I was part of it because they felt at the time that there was a real need. And for me, having a diversity council is not, it was important to say so, but for me also it showed that they were seeing that there was a problem. And I would love that there is no diversity council and that's just the way it is, that now all kind of people work together.
Yeah. Now, Maud, I know this is a topic that's very close to your heart and also something that you've been very, very active in throughout your time at Accor. So please give us your perspective.
Thank you. To me, long story short, diversity became a leadership principle. It's really the most powerful lever to me to create collective intelligence. My HR is Polish. My legal director is Hungarian. My chief of operation worldwide, working in 120 countries for 245 hotels under our brands, is an OC and is half German and half Japanese. So the minute you start brainstorming with them, they are bringing you so many different cultural lenses. The way they look at the issue, at the problem, is different. And then you realize you're so French. Like, rah, rah, rah. And then the OC is going to be, the Japanese going to be, cool down, look at that. So Polish will be, puff. And then, and you know, it's wonderful. It's wonderful because there is not a single way to look at things. And there is not a single way to solve problems. And you feel blessed because it's an amazing richness. And to me, clearly, diversity is the most powerful lever of collective intelligence. We are obviously diverse at Accor. Accor is a worldwide company. We are currently operating in 120 countries with 5,400 hotels. So we are big. And we do encourage cultural diversity, and very often in our hotels we have over 25 nationalities in our staff, which is a kind of magic. Nevertheless, as I told you, diversity meaning promoting genders, ages, cultural backgrounds at top positions was not that easy. So we decided to get quotas. And we decided collectively with Sebastian the ExCom because we just wanted to accelerate things. It may have happened, you know, at one moment, but it would have been too late, and we didn't want to wait. So before any regulation 4 years ago, we decided to get new quotas with the ambition to reach 40% of women at ExCom level, 40% of women at CODIA level, 40% of women at GM's level by 2025. Tick, tack, tick, tack, tick, tack. And we've been pushing hard. And I hope one day, as Marie said, we won't need quotas anymore. But it's a necessary evil to accelerate things. Again, not just to get women everywhere, but to get wonderful men and women, junior and senior, national backgrounds, cultural diversity, all around us. And you know, people talk a lot about CSR. But CSR is not just about plastic. It's not just about food waste. The S stands for social. It's for people. So if you want to work for diversity, somehow you're seeking for a positive impact, which is really connected to a sustainable hospitality.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Just before I turn the questions over to our audience. And Charlotte, this was something that came up in our conversation. I really wanted to touch on it. And I think it's an important factor for all three of you, actually. Relationships and family obviously are at the heart of the human existence I talked about right at the start. It's why we coined the term work-life balance, because there is a life outside of work. Now, give me your perspective on how, particularly in a sort of relationship situation maybe where two successful people both holding down quite senior roles, how they can balance that with their requirement, with their needs for each other and for their families. How does that work in practice?
Thank you for the question. I think Marie started touching on it. So yes, we are women and we are the one giving birth. So I think globally speaking as well, I think I got my 2 promotions after delivering my babies. So yes, we can have babies, and on that sense, we can have it all. That question is important because I remember a couple of years ago for International Women's Day at Richmond, we're having a talk, and one of young generation asked me, "Oh, by the way," basically the question was, do you have a life? Do you have a husband? So I'm like, yes, I do have a husband. I have 2 kids. I even have pets. And she said, but what does your husband do? And my husband has a very successful career. And funny enough, even the reason why I traveled a lot. So when I hear people telling me, Ben, I didn't work for the last 3 years because my husband was sent to XYZ. My husband was sent to XYZ and I follow in XYZ. And every time I find a new role and a new opportunity. So sometimes, let's say that the timing was not exactly perfect. Sometimes I was having my dream job as the first job at Cartier in development in jewelry. So you're a 25-year-old, you are developing the most beautiful creation in the biggest brand. And your husband's like, hey, let's go to London. I'm like, oh shit. And I love Paris. I'm like, okay, let's go to London. And every time you end up in a new role. And it means as well sometimes making some decision and maybe, that next promotion you just changed. Maybe it's safer that I hold on a bit on this one to make you safer. And then on the next one, okay, so now you're traveling to Africa because you did everything. I'm like, on that one, I'm going to go back to France to settle the kids, to find a new way of working. And today, of course, it needs a lot of organization. It still has an impact because, as Mary was saying, your team needs you as well. So, but I have 2 girls. So if I don't draw them, showing them that mommy is working and it's important, and I stay home, but it's definitely not the example I want to give them. And on the opposite sometimes as well, even if my husband has a very successful role, I say, that dentist, it's impossible. I have a very important meeting. So, but that's yours. And I think this is really important, and I strongly believe you can have it all. Successful husband, successful yourself, happy kids, they seem happy. We'll see in a couple of years. They're getting older, so also what I've learned is the older they get, the more they need you. So that's also important in your work-life balance. But yes, for me, it's important. And so far, touch wood, you can have it all.
Okay, cool. Marie, Maud, would I have you like a quick take on that before we hand over to our audience?
I perfectly agree. And I think we need just to decide what we want and what is a perfect mom or what is a perfect dad. There's no definition. You're the one deciding it. Some mothers will feel they need to be 100% of the time at home. Personally, that's not what I want for my life. And thing is, do you like your work? And personally, and I think that for the 3 of us, and I guess for many people in this room, we like what we do. So I need this passion and I need to be at work, and that's how I'm going to be a good mom when I go back home. So then it's a lot of organization. I have a husband who travels half the time on international travel. So half the time I'm a single mom. So it's a lot of organization, but it's doable. And then you sleep a bit less, you work a bit hard, but you also play hard and you have some fun, and there will be no regrets. So it's your decision, and nothing is impossible. That's the only thing.
Cool. Maud, final word?
Yeah, I think it's a very important topic, and I think we should stop trying to be toxic to each other with the belief that some people are just perfect, and then there is us. Like we just see the teachers who reminds us that we need to have this meeting tomorrow and to bring some fruits and vegetables for the Thursday 8 a.m. meeting. You're like, oh yeah, sure, of course. You know what? Shit happens. Don't try to be perfect. No one is. Dead people may be perfect, but if you're trying to remain alive, you're not going to be perfect. The only message we'd like to share with you, I think, is it's doable, it's possible, but it's not going to always be easy. Same story for men, by the way. You need to adapt, you need to accept. You also can share with your team that sometimes it's harder. So I'm going to share with you this morning a little secret. Today is a very special day for me because I've got one conference, one town hall with my boss, another town hall, another stuff I can't remember. This is my worst day. Yesterday I was in Abu Dhabi, and my little daughter, Clara, didn't sleep at all last night. Et voilà. I think they feel it, you know. It's, I think, healthy to share that sometimes we are struggling. To share that this morning in pyjama, I was like, oh, I'm going to make it. But you know, I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to look at your smiles. I feel the energy. I'm blessed to share the panel with you, ladies. And it's okay. We are just serving scrambled eggs. We are not heart surgeons. And it's going to be okay. But again, it's doable to be a wife, a mom, a CEO. It's not always that easy. And it's okay to say it. Because if it gives you the conviction that you can also do it, then we would have had a successful panel.
Fantastic. We've got 6 or 7 minutes left, so now it's your turn. We have a lady with a microphone. So who has a question for the panel? Just put your hand up and we'll get the microphone over to you. Somebody must have a question. Yeah. Here we go.
In fact, thank you very much. I do not have a question, but as a young woman and not the only one in the room, it's really important for me, in fact, that to see that it's possible, that we can dream, then that dream can become true, and that we can do everything. And today was really great conference for me, and I go back home with all the hopes and the butterflies. So thank you very much.
Oh, very good. Okay. So who has a question? Somebody must have a question for... There we go.
So I don't think we have a majority of men, so it was very inspiring what you said. So the question is for the three of you: what is the most important quality you look after when you recruit? Because you talk about a lot of qualities, diversity, but I just wanted to know what makes the difference.
Emotional intelligence. In the hospitality industry, if you don't have the ability to connect, to anticipate, to feel, to do this little attention which will make you special, you can't do it. I've been meeting amazing, super smart people with very low emotional intelligence, and I'm not interested. Emotional intelligence.
Okay. Either you two have a take on that?
I think that was the good word, emotion. I think maybe a bit of passion as well. On top of intelligence, you need to believe in what you do. No matter the size of a business, a bit of passion in what you do.
Marie?
And I would add willingness. Like, everything is possible if you want it to happen. So you need to work hard, you need to make it happen. But if you want to take a step, you can. So I will expect this from candidates.
Okay. Anybody else with a question? Well, very quiet this morning. Well, I have one instead then, because there are a lot of young female talents in this room, and we've heard from one already, which was great. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people watching on the live stream as well. So I'll take each of you in turn as our final question of this panel. If you had one piece of career advice to a young, talented female looking to build a career as successful as the three of you have managed, what would it be? And I don't mind who starts. Marie, would you like to go first?
Well, I'll repeat myself, but there would be two that I would combine. The first one is don't set limits that are stupid. You're the one setting up the limits 99% of the time, so forget about your own limits and think everything is possible. And then give you the means to make it possible. And work is going to solve a lot about it. Well, I took every single job I took in my life. I did not have the skills or the ability to take it at that moment. I was not a CDO before I joined L'Oréal, and I had never worked internationally, and I had never worked in a great corporation. It was mission suicide, but it worked because I worked crazy hours during 6 months to catch up. I've started being the CEO of a packaging company. I had never touched packaging in my life, and I had never led an SME. I worked hard for 6 months, but then, and for more than 6 months, but really hard for that period, because then you learn and you catch up, and everything is possible through work and willingness. Just forget the limits. Forget them.
Cool. And Charlotte?
I'm going to repeat something Maud said earlier. Things are not going to come to you. You need to ask them. And I agree fully that men are better than us for that. And really, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I think that's the most important. And again, I think, don't think it's not possible. When I joined Ralph Lauren, they hired me for something I've never done, event. And Ralph Lauren as a global company, they as long as your brain works, and you have the willingness, they give you everything. So one day I was hired to do the beautiful exhibition of the art of the automobile with all the cars of Ralph Lauren. So you've never done that. You are in between an American company and the French government. I can tell you these are amazing calls. And the next day they tell you, okay, so you seem to have a bit of time, which you don't have, of course. Let's open Turkey. Okay, I've never been to Turkey. That's fine, go for 1 week. Okay, go for 1 week. And in 1 week, you meet people. And I love the idea that, yes, in a way, the sky is the limit, wherever you want it to put it.
And Maud, final word to you.
My advice will be try to identify your fears. And we are all scared. We do all have fears. I had fears. I have fears. You have fears. Don't lie. You have fears. Try to listen to your fears and get rid of them. Because fear is your worst enemy. Because, as you said, they are creating your own limits. You may have genuine fears. You inherited them from I don't know where, but we have fears. And fear has releases of blocking points. So try to identify them to get rid of them, because otherwise it's going to be difficult. Second, my piece of advice is ask for help. Try to get a mentor. Develop your network. For a very long time, I was considering that having a network was completely useless, and if you were really good enough, you didn't need a new network, which was completely silly. But I had no clue, I had no codes, I didn't know. Which is also why I've been a coach for now over 15 years, trying to give back and trying to share all those things I would love to have learned earlier. Last thing, try to be aligned. Don't listen to mom, dad, or I don't know who. If you want to be a station manager, become the station manager. Listen to your voice. So alignment, meaning choose a company where you love the product. Make sure the culture of the company is really aligned with the values you cherish. The true values, not a culture, washing, a real culture. And then last but not least, try to choose the people you're going to work with, because you spend a lot of time with them and it can help. This would be my piece of advice.
Excellent. Well, Maud, Marie, and Charlotte, I knew this would be an enthralling session, but I've also personally found it an extremely inspiring one. So thank you very much for that. And for our wonderful audience and those joining us at home, we have another session in just 30 minutes' time, and I'll be bringing the love. And that's in company with Alexis de la Palme, Christophe Wiga, and my old sparring partner, Francois-Henri Benamia. And you won't want to miss that. But for now, though, please show your warm appreciation for our wonderful panelists, Maud Bailly, Marie Sermadiras, and Anne-Charlotte Bellanger. Thank you. No problem. You were wonderful. Oh, sorry. Oh.
Ah bah oui.